Hello, in this video we walk through the Xcode development environment. This is the program that we will use to develop our apps. Xcode is available in the App Store and you can download to a Mac OS. So once you download it and open it, you start with this screen. Xcode, in a sense, is similar to many of the other softwares that you've used before. Everything is a project, so our app will be a project. So in the beginning, you see it asks you to create a new project, open an existing project, or if you have used it before, there will be here a list of the recent project. The playground is not a project, but it's a tool for you to practice the features or instructions or the Swift programming language, as you will see in a moment. So we will start with creating an Xcode project, and that's what we will do every time we start a new app. When you say create a new project, Xcode opens its window, and you see here the menu items. Many of them are very similar to what you see in other applications, and there is the template that allow you to create a new project. You see on the template there are four different types of templates. Templates for iOS, which are the mobile devices, that's what we will use, the watch, and the TV, and the OS X, which is the desktop or the laptop. So we're always going to use the iOS, and you can build an application or you can build a framework or a library. A framework or a library is not an application by itself, but it's a help and a support to an application. So you can build, and a lot of people do that. They build the frameworks and they sell it for people who will build an application. There are different types of templates for an application. We're always going to use the single view an application. This is an empty application that has a view. A view is the same as, for this purpose, is the same as a screen, which is what you see on your device when you open an app. You see a screen, and that is a view. So this is a single view application or template or a single screen. Then it asks you what do you want to name this project or this application. So I'm gonna say I will call it, this will be our project number one. Usually start with the last name. The reason to start with the last name is for me, because this is I will be grading this. If you are watching this outside the class, you can name the project anything. So I'm going to call it today's code. And then what's the organization name and what's the organization identifier. The identifier is a unique identification that is used when you put your app on the store. You see here the bundle or the folder or the collection of files related to this app. That's what it will be called. It's the convention is to use the reverse of the URL of your organization. So that's the reverse URL of this class. And and this was essential before Xcode 7.2 if you want to put the app on your phone for testing. Now Xcode 7.2 allow you to put the app on your phone directly without having to go through the steps of having a development profile. So this really doesn't matter much. So you can do anything you want to do. If you're working in an organization or if you have your own organization, you're probably gonna have to set that, and everybody developing for you will use it. Two languages to set up the project. So we're using Swift. That's the most recent language. And which device you want to be the common device. And the difference here is that Xcode will provide you with a user interface or what we call a storyboard for each one of the devices. We'll just stay with iPhone, and we're not going to include any of these at this time. This is a beginner series, so we're not going to deal with any of those at this time, but as you become more comfortable, you can explore them on your own. Next, it will ask you where do you want to save this. so you can save it in any project or folder that you would like. So that's on my computer here, and I will save this the project. Oops, that's the video, so we'll probably just leave it here on this project. One note about this is don't save directly to a USB or a network drive. Always save locally, and then copy the project to whatever folder you want. Once we create the template project, you can see the full features of Xcode. So let's spend a few moments exploring what Xcode is. You notice there are three distinct areas. The first area on the left, and that's the area I'm changing its size here. That's called the project navigation area. The purpose of this area is to give you access to the project files and the issues related to the project file. There are you can filter, you can search, and there is a sub menu, and you will notice that in each of the area there is a sub menu bar here. So if you hover over each icon, it will tell you what that is. So that's the project navigator, and that's where most of your work will be. The next one is the symbol navigator, and searching the find, the issue navigator, and test. So there are several of those. Sometimes um, you know what they are and you're going to use them, and maybe some of them, oh, I don't even know what that is, but you're probably familiar with this, the project navigator. That's where the files are. And you notice when we create a project, this is the main folder of the project, or the main bundle of the project, and then you can open it to see what's inside it. And there are two files or two folders inside. One has the same name as the project name, and that's where most of your files are, most of your project development files. And the other one has a product, which is the products, and in this case we're planning on one product or one target from this project. You can have one project and target multiple products. So here we have just one product. So we're not going to deal with the product folder most of the time. It's only here the project folder. And you see that there are three files or four files that are very important: the launch screen, the main storyboard, the view controller, and the app delegate.swift. And we'll talk more about those as we go through. The second area, which is the opposite of it to the right side, this is the utility area. This area is divided into two, the top and the bottom. And the top give you access to, depending on the file that you select, it will give you quick help or documentation. So this is the file inspector. So this is give you details about the files, or access to what the iOS platform has about this particular file. So every file, every component you select, you will see different items here and different menus, and sometimes different icons. The lower menu has a media library, object library, code library, and file template library. This is meant to give you quick access to samples, quick access to the iOS platform libraries suitable for the file you selected. And you will see as we select more different files, this will change, and so on for that media library. Inside, you will see list of properties. Here is the name of the project, and here is the project format, and so on and so forth. The middle area is what's called the editing area. So this is where you edit the file that you are working with. So we selected the project, and there's a file that's called the configuration file. Every project has configuration that has information about it. For instance, the identity, that's the bundle identifier, the version, the build, if you're a member of a development team or not. And then where do you want to deploy it? What kind of iOS version you want your app to work. So in here, This app works only in iOS 9.2. If you want the app to work on earlier version, then you can set an earlier target. What device the app is meant to work with, iPhone. Where is the main interface file? This is the primary file that represents the app user interface. What orientations the app will be eligible. Where are the app icons located? The assets catalog, that's where the assets or the images and so on related to the app, and the launch screen. Um, this is connects to the storyboard when the you have an option before the main screen is shown that there's a launch screen. So you can either have the launch screen to be the main screen, or you can have some information on your own. The configurations, this is just the general category, but as you can see, there are multiple categories for the configuration here that for our purpose, we're not going to be really doing much with it, but I want you to know this is where the configuration is. Then there are the menu bar before we get to the text. From the top right, this is ability to hide and show some of those screens. So we can hide the utility area and show it, hide the project navigation and show it, and hide the output area in the bottom here and show it. We can switch between different, either the standard editor, which what we have, the assistant editor, and we will use that later on, or the version editor. On the left side, this is the play, run the current setup for the app called the scheme, or stop it if it's running. Xcode comes with a set of simulators. So as you see here, these are the different schemes, and we have simulators that comes with Xcode that you can use. So it is set by default to iPhone 6s Plus. Maybe you want to run on an iPhone 6 or 5, so you select that. If you connected your phone to your computer, you will see your phone here, and you can then select that and click run, and it will put the app on your phone. What we created here is an actual running app. It's an empty app. Uh, the top menu, I'm not going to spend much time on it. I just want to point to you in the help, there's something called documentation and API reference. And this is where this is going to be your friend. This is where you access help to all the iOS libraries that you will use. So this is where you get it. You can switch to the windows from here as well, and there is different options available that you can refer to every now and then when you need it. This is, as I mentioned, a fully functioning app. To test this app, I'm going to test it on the iPhone 6. So click run. And when you click run, Xcode loads, builds the app, which means it connects the files that you created with the files of the iOS platform and launches the app in the device simulator that you selected or on your own device. And you can see it here loaded on the right, and a simulator of an iPhone 6. And in the beginning, if this is your first time, the simulator is going to come a full size, so it will be too big. You can go to window scale, and you can see I have here a 50% scale. If it's 100%, it will be as big as this, and you'll have to scroll up and down. If this is your first time, it's going to come in that size. Then you go to window, it's in the simulator window scale, and then 50% to bring it to the size that you probably used to. While this loads here on the right, let's explore the files. The storyboard file, you will see it here has one view in it, and that view, so it has in the storyboard editor, there is a document outliner which comes open here by default, and this is the icon that can close it, hide document outliner. And this is the story board. There's one controller or one view, and notice when the app loads, it loads with one screen because there's only one screen that we defined here. If you want to, if you don't believe me, you can look through the different screens here, there's nothing more except this one. So that's one screen. If you select it, uh, and once we select this, notice there are 6 options now showed. The first one is the file inspector, the quick help, the identity inspector, the attributes inspector, the size inspector, and the connections inspector. This is a view controller. If I click on the identity inspector, you will see under class that this is a custom class and the name of the class is view controller. Now I want you to turn your attention to the project navigator and look at this file that's called the view controller. The view controller.swift file that you see here, that is what is meant by a custom class. So that is how this screen on the project in the interface builder is connected to the controller in the as a Swift file where you can provide your own instructions. The attribute inspector tells you all the different attributes or properties or options that you can have for this interface. Now, notice when I'm selecting here, the boundaries are highlighted in blue. Now I'm going to select or click on the white area inside. Once I click on the white area inside, notice that this changed. Let me do it again. So here I'm clicking on the boundaries. So what's being selected is the controller. But once you select the white area, it's no longer the controller, it is the view. You can see that also in the breadcrumbs on the top. So here I'm selecting the view controller, so it tells you here where you are. So I am in this project under my project folder. I'm in the storyboard, the base storyboard. This is the view controller scene, and I'm now selecting the view controller. Now once I selected the view, you see it switched to the view. But notice that the view is part of the view controller. So the view controller is a logical layer, an intelligent layer that basically connects the screen to the custom controller or a default controller so that they can talk to one another and you can provide instructions. The view is what you see. So you do not see the controller, but you see the view. The view is not a custom class. Notice under class it is grayed out and it's called UI view. Whereas when I select the controller, it's in black and it doesn't say UI or anything, meaning that this is a class that we created, a custom one. We actually didn't, but the template, remember, it was called single view template. The template created that for us. But for the view is controlled by its default library class, not a custom class. If you want to do a custom view, you can create your own class, and but in this case, it is not. When you select the attribute inspector, so you see that the view also has some properties of its own. Going to the file inspector, there are interface builder documents, opens in 7. This is Xcode version. If you're switching between different computers that has different Xcode versions and you want to make sure that this opens in earlier version, you want to set that option here. What did you build this for? So if you want to change the deployment, you can change it from here so that it can deploy on devices that has earlier version of the iOS platform. Do you want to view it with this? So we're viewing it as iOS 7.0 or later. Now these two are important. Use auto layout and use size classes. The size classes is what allow you to have one user interface and adjust that interface to multiple screen sizes. I want to take you back to those simulators and I tell you, see here, it starts from iPhone 4, 5, 5S, 6, 6X Plus, and it also has iPad 2, iPad Air, iPad Pro. All of these, as you probably know, have different screen sizes. So how do you build an interface that is conscious of all those screen sizes? This is what the size classes give you tools to allow you to do that. Most important of those tools, these base values for different layouts, and associated with it is the alignment pin and the resolve auto layout issue, which allow you to add alignment constraints for the different components and the view that you have. This is if you want to build one interface and make adjustments or constraints to adjust that interface for different sizes. For this beginning project, I wanna just build for one specific size, which is the iPhone. So I'm just gonna take out the size classes. When you take out the size classes, it will tell you, okay, which device you want. Do you want the iPhone or the iPad? So I'm gonna say I want the iPhone. So it gives you, you no longer have those options here for the size, and you no longer have the size classes, and you have just one screen. Now you probably know the iPhone itself has so many different sizes, and probably Xcode will provide with multiple heights, and this height here that you see is for iPhone 5, and so if you put something in the bottom, the iPhone 6 is longer. So you'll explore that and see it, but I'm turning off the size classes just for simplicity as we proceed with the different projects. So this is our Xcode overview, and this is the simulator. This is an actual phone, so if you go to hardware and click on home, you simulate the home button on your device. So here is your iPhone, and here is your app. I don't have an icon for the app, but this is the name of the app, and if you click on it, the app opens like that. So in hardware, you can simulate some of the actions of the actual device, and you can bring in a keyboard and so on and so forth. So that's it, and